What up, guys? Adrian here, and today in this Brute Shoot I want to talk about the importance of an off-season. And there are many layers to this, so I'm going to try to keep it very general so that it seems as though it caters to the masses. But it's something that's so strongly overlooked in our sport because I think that CrossFit is still pretty brand new to the seasonal approach. Right, and I think that with good reason, right? And CrossFit in general, it's the idea behind the strength conditioning program as a whole is GPP, so general physical preparedness. And what that means is essentially we need to be ready at any given time for any given task, whenever that might and however it might present itself. So from the origin, like the OG approach of CrossFit.com style workouts and what we're really training for, that fits the mold. But when it comes to this seasonal approach of peaking you for 5 weeks in the open and then having an opportunity to kind of deload or reload you and get you ready for another peak at the regional, which for most athletes that make it to that level is going to have to be the most prepared and the most peaked state of their entire season because, right, if you don't do well there, you don't get a shot at the CrossFit Games. So you can't really look past the regional. So this is kind of like the big thing, right, for most of us. And then after that, by chance you make it through, it's another reload phase as we really up the volume and continue to try to get the most out of you at the CrossFit Games sometime either late July, early August. Now the question is, and the reason I say I want to keep this kind of vanilla is because, to be honest with you, there are several different tracks that people are going to need to be on, right? There's going to be a wave of people who bow out after the Open. But they've been training really hard for it. Like, let's say a lot of people go into training in December. I mean, not that they're not training all year, but this is where the real focus of training happens in December, all the way through March through April when the Open ends. And then those so those people, the majority of us out there in the entire world, will not have the opportunity to compete at the regional floor. That's where their off season begins. The regional athlete is going to be right after regionals, games athlete. You get the idea. So what should that look like for each one of these groups? And on a different level, clearly they'll have some specific things and ways that they'll be set apart from each other. But from a general perspective, what is the purpose of an off season? And it's really simple. It's an opportunity for you to recharge your batteries, not only physically but also mentally. We just filmed another Brute Shoot where we're talking about the importance of getting outside of the gym. The off season is like the perfect opportunity for you to create this distant relationship with your normal training routine. And what I mean by that is, if there's any time to get outside and go swimming and to go hiking and go play a new sport, like go play some touch football, go play some flag football, go play pickup basketball, like in your off season, especially early on, this is the heart of being able to do that, right? And the rationale is it allows you to step away from a lot of the movement redundancy that we expose ourselves to in the day-to-day training, right? We know that in CrossFit, we squat a lot, we pull a lot, we do a lot of vertical pulling in the form of pull-ups and muscle-ups and ring muscle-ups and a lot of straight arm levering through like toes to bar, knees to elbows, and even a lot of the muscle-ups can be categorized into that family of pulling as well. But the idea is, as much of it is a constantly varied sport, we know that we have to excel at a few set skills that are pretty specific in order to reach a really high level or a threshold. And so a lot of the year, because we are exposed to these specific movements, we get exposed to what is categorized as movement redundancy, where it's just time and time again, repetitive. And again, it's kind of a hard balancing act because we do know that it takes several thousands of repetitions to master something. So we're always towing that line, but in the off season, we really want to step completely away from that. So if you can go take up a new sport, if you can take up a new recreation, that's what I want you to do in the off season, and that's the goal. So make sure that you're trying to think about doing that within the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then often that's a time frame that I'll give my athletes. I'll be like, listen, step outside the gym. I don't plan on seeing you, and don't show your face in here for 2 weeks. Right? And that is really hard for most CrossFit athletes because we love the gym, we love the people at the gym, et cetera, right? Sometimes you're a coach, and look, if you're a coach, you got to coach, I get it. But I want you to exercise and I want you to move, but I want you to do it outside the gym. Pick something new, do something different, right? Maybe the intensity is lower, maybe you go to an MMA gym down the street from your box, but the idea is recharge your batteries physically, recharge your batteries mentally. And as the off season makes its transition into where you're actually back in the gym and you're back to training, it should look different for each and every one of you athletes out there, right? So there are athletes that have a really high endurance background, and they're going to thrive in long not long, slow workouts, but longer workouts, more biased towards body weight movements where they're running, they're rowing, you name it, their engine speaks for themselves, right? Athletes like Sam Briggs out there called the engine. Athletes like Brett Fikowski out there who dominate in these long workouts, and they don't even have to train in this time domain as often because they know their weaknesses lie otherwise, and they can still step up to the level of the community or above the level of community when it's tested. So think about someone like that. They need to be emphasizing their strength training, right? They need to be doing the heavy back squats. They need to be prioritizing the heavy pulls. They need to get stronger. If size is a byproduct of that, that's a great thing, but it's not necessarily the goal, but they need to get stronger, right? The athlete that's already strong, some of them need to go ahead and focus more on the endurance-focused training where they do focus more on base work, where they're building their aerobic capacity, where they're spending more time at the track. They're strengthening their particular weakness. You might have an athlete that has good capacity, either strength or endurance, and they really, really lack the skill of the gymnastics development, so that's where they need to spend the heart of their off-season. But for the chunk, the majority of your off-season year, you're going to need to focus on your weakness. And it's not the fun stuff, it's not the sexy stuff, but it is the stuff that's going to bring you full circle so that when it's time again, right? And we're talking about these months where we're leading into the open of December, January, and even the early months of February as we're back towards the approach of the in-season or the preseason where it's like we know for certain no matter what your weakness is at that point, you need to be playing your sport. Then we start to bring it all full circle so that that weakness that you worked on all off season long is now better. It is more refined. It is no longer a weakness, and you're a better well-rounded athlete because of it. So long story short, guys, the offseason is important. It's extremely important. It's not a time where you can do nothing. You have to continue to do something. Hold on to that physical capacity. Get outside of the gym. Expose yourself to new movements. Pick a new sport. And really use this opportunity as a chance to dial in weaknesses so that you can be someone new in the season to come.